It's finally time, Drew, for the biggest game of the season for this channel, Georgia versus Tennessee. Obviously, the implications aren't as big as they were last year when Tennessee came into Stanford, ranked #1 in the country, and that Georgia defense just absolutely handled that prolific Tennessee offense. This year, both of these teams are a lot different. Us Tennessee fans believe that Tennessee did not reach their full potential this year. We should have been a lot better with the talent that we had. Georgia, at the beginning of the season, a little bit similar sentiment from Georgia fans. You know, they were kind of wondering what this Mike Bobo offense with Carson Beck was going to be like, a little bit critical of that. But Georgia's continuously gotten better every single game. And everybody knows at this point they're a second half team, and they step up to the level of competition that they play. Against Ole Miss last week, that was the best Georgia's played all year. Carson Beck threw for 300 yards again, and it was just a dominant performance by the Dogs. On the other hand, Tennessee loses an absolute heartbreaker that Tennessee fans did not expect to lose. You know, with Heupel, we have an expectation now as Tennessee fans. We need to win the games that we're supposed to win. We want to be on the same level or pushing up to the same level as Alabama and Georgia. And what do you need to do that? Consistency, you know? And Josh Heupel, his record against non-Alabama and Georgia teams is great, Drew. But the away record for Josh Heupel is not good. Away at Florida and away at Missouri, 2 losses. Missouri's a good team, but we should have won both of those games. Now, we have y'all at home. That's going to be a massive impact for this Tennessee Vols team, but Carson Beck's a dog, and I've been saying it all year. We haven't seen the best ball he's going to play yet. Tennessee's defense, we're hurt. I mean, you saw the game. We lost McDonald, our linebacker. We had to throw in number 44. We got some, Kamal Haddon is injured, our best corner. When you look at this Georgia passing attack compared to this Tennessee defense, how do you think this is going to go down? Will it get ugly for the Vols, in your opinion?
It's hard to say. Like you said, you're a home team. But first and foremost, I want to say we're going to learn a little bit about Josh Heupel this week. And how is he able to get his guys regrouped together after a 36-7 loss? That is not easy to come off of, especially when you look at your schedule. The next team you play is Georgia. Now, it is at home. That's a big plus, obviously. But then at the same time, this Josh Heupel offense that he runs works great against a lot of teams, Aiden. A lot of teams. But he has not been able to find that same success when he plays Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart seems to have an answer for this offense, it seems, every year. 2021, I think Tennessee scored 2 offensive touchdowns in that game. One of the touchdowns being late, like the fourth quarter, like 2 minutes left. And then last year in 2022, same thing. Tennessee didn't score a touchdown until later in the game. Just a little fun fact here. The last person to actually throw a touchdown for Tennessee against Georgia was Joe Milton. So that's just a little fun fact I wanted to throw in there too. Anyways, to answer your question, I'm kind of getting off track here. This is a Georgia offense that's pretty much gotten everyone back. Ra Thomas, the receiver for Georgia, he got a little dinged up against Ole Miss. I tried to look up injury reports for him. I haven't seen anything where he's going to miss some time or any further, information about the injury. So I'm sure he could be playing in this one. So with that being said, Georgia's got all their weapons available and ready to use. And they're going up against a Tennessee defense that, like you said, Aiden, is dinged up. And it's hard to replace any injury, especially when your best players are hurt. You're not going to get better. You're not going to always find a guy on the bench that's better than your star player on defense and get better. I think, unfortunately for Tennessee, too, Georgia's starting to really find their stride in the run game as well. A couple weeks in a row, Georgia's been able to run the football. We got Amarius Mims, our star tackle back. Everyone's kind of back to playing their traditional position on the offensive line, which is a big bonus for us. Kendall Milton starting to find his stride. Georgia's offense put up 600 yards last week, and that is a really big deal in terms of confidence. Georgia's offense, when you get that offense, all 11 guys are finally starting to figure out how to click and play together, and Bobo's starting to get in his groove. With all the talent that Georgia has, it's not even just a thing for Tennessee. I think it's almost impossible for almost any defense right now to stop this Georgia offense, assuming Carson Beck is accurate like he's been and is hitting all his targets. And then one other thing I want to talk about too. The penalty situation. Georgia is top 10 in least amount of penalties in all of college football. Tennessee, and we've seen multiple Tennessee games together. Atrocious. Tennessee is 126.
It's been a problem since we had old Butch Jones, Arkansas State head coach. It's been a problem through multiple coaching staffs, this penalty issue. I can't understand it. It makes me want to punt my freaking TV remote through the screen. I don't, and Josh Heupel, I'm sorry to go on this real quick, but Josh Heupel, he doesn't get, it kills me how emotionless he is on the sideline compared to like a Kirby Smart. Like he is not a hot-headed guy, which, that's okay. But the only time he ever complains about a call is when the defense is allowed to sub whenever he's pushing tempo on offense. That's the only time he ever loses his cool. If you don't coach it, you allow it. And like he is not pissed off about these calls. And it's pretty much every game. It doesn't matter if we're playing Georgia or Austin Peay. We are undisciplined. It was in the UConn game too before we started whooping them. It's a problem in every single game. But I'm sorry, you're right. We will lose against good teams if we give up 100+ yards and penalties.
Yeah, and when you look at how teams upset other teams, you got to play almost flawless football. And penalties, there's plenty of games I watch with Tennessee where they get a good run or a completed pass for a first down and it gets called back for holding. You can't have that when you play against Georgia. You got to play flawless. And another thing Tennessee I think is going to have to do, Aiden, is they have to limit the long drives that Georgia's going to try to put together. Georgia is a very efficient offense. They might not be the most explosive. You're not going to see Carson Beck throwing, 5-70-yard passes downfield. But Georgia's more than willing to take time off the clock, especially when they play Tennessee. They did it last year against Tennessee, especially in the second half, where Georgia wasn't really trying to put their foot on the gas. It was just more of trying to kill as much clock as possible so Tennessee's offense can't get on the field. Now, with this Joe Milton-led offense, Aiden, obviously, there's no Jalen Hyatt either. There's no Cedric Tillman. Tennessee has good receivers, but I don't think there's been that one receiver that truly has stepped up and taken that number one spot. So taking all that into consideration, what player do you think on this Tennessee offense is going to have a breakout game if you think Tennessee's going to pull this one off?
It's going to have to be one of the running backs, 100%. Against Missouri, going into that game, Tennessee supposedly has one of the best front sevens on defense at stopping the run and one of the best O-lines at running the football. And we got dominated on both fronts against Missouri. So we are going to have to run the football against Georgia, just like Missouri did, although they did not win. Consistently run the football and establish a run game, because you mentioned Georgia eating the clock last year. I don't think Tennessee's offense is elite enough this year where Georgia's going to be doing that. Georgia's the one with the elite passing attack this year. So it wouldn't surprise me if Tennessee wasn't using as much tempo as they normally do and trying to keep Beck and the Georgia Dogs offense off the field. And to do that, you're going to have that running attack. Jamal Wright against Missouri, Jalen Wright rather, did not have a great game. I want to see Jabari Smalls, or honestly, Dylan Sampson, I think is probably the hardest runner after Jalen Wright. I want to see one of them go off in this game. And as far as this Tennessee offense as a whole, Drew, any Josh Heupel offense is going to be centered around the quarterback. And last year when we had Hendon Hooker, this offense was completely different than what it is now. Not just including how much we run the football. We ran more than we passed with Hendon Hooker. We just used the run to set up the shot plays. It was like a run and shoot offense. We had the screens on top of that to keep the defensive backs honest. They had to play the screens, and that apprehension is what got us that step with those great receivers 40+ yards down the field. Heupel does not trust Joe Milton enough to call those deep shot plays. And because of that, we had to quit running the screens, because when we would run the screens, the defense would just bring the safety down and we wouldn't have the numbers. So instead of running screens, we're just running slants, outs, hitches, comebacks, just quick game stuff to the outside. We are not throwing the ball deep down the middle of the field. If you keep this Georgia defense playing in front of them and you don't stretch them vertically, you're going to be in trouble. This Georgia defense is fast. They are physical up front. If they don't have to worry about the deep shot down the field, they can play a lot more aggressive in the run game. So I have to see Joe Milton play his best game, not just with his legs. He has to make the throws in a game like this to have a chance.
And I think Kirby Smart knows that, Dayton. I think he's going to allow his DBs to go one-on-one and make Joe Milton make those throws. I think Kirby Smart's going to want to play a little more aggressive in the run game, just primarily because we don't have the star-studded players up front like we've had in previous years that you can count on them to win all their one-on-ones. Even if Tennessee was to have the numbers advantage up front, Kirby Smart was willing to let it be like that just because he trusts his star players. But we don't have that. So Kirby Smart's going to be wanting to bring some safeties up. And I think he's good. I think the main thing for Georgia this year, or this game in particular, can their corners win those one-on-ones down the field? And I think that's what you're going to have to see from Joe Milton. He's going to be able to have to hit on those deep shots, or Tennessee is going to be in real trouble. Georgia's a team, although I keep mentioning Georgia doesn't have that star-studded player up front. It's a lot of great players up there, though, and they're more than willing to keep everything in front of them, and they kind of want to play in between the tackles. They don't want to have a situation where they're letting all these stretch runs get to them. I think Kirby Smart's noted that multiple times in press conferences that he's really trying to work on getting rid of those. And one last thing, Aiden, in terms of keys for this game that really catches my eye, Georgia is the #1 third down conversion percentage offense. Can Tennessee's defense, can they do anything to win those first and second downs? And really, on the flip side too, I think one of the biggest keys when you look at this game, if you just forget everything else I say, that people, you need to hear this. If Tennessee or Georgia is going to win this game, it's going to come down to which team wins more on first down. Georgia and Tennessee both are teams that are more than capable of winning third downs on offense if they're third and short. Both of these teams, though, have found themselves struggling where they get into third and long situation and have struggled to convert on these third downs. And Kirby Smart harps on this a lot. Georgia's been winning a lot of first downs on offense this year, and that has allowed them to get to second and short, third and short, and that's why their conversion percentage is so high. So with that being said, Aiden, I think that's probably my biggest key for this game is who wins the most on first down.
Yeah, that first down efficiency stat is a pretty new stat for college football football coaches in general that they've been using. And, it's really become apparent with advanced statistics, how well you do on first down is a massive indicator on how successful that drive is going to be. And you're 100% right. If you're staying on schedule as an offense and you're not forced into second and longs and then third and longs, you're obviously going to be hitting those third downs at a much higher clip. With that being said, the biggest thing I think this game is going to come down to is Tennessee defensively. They blitz a lot. Now, we get a lot of pressure. We have very, very good pass rushers. Tyler Behrens, Joseph, even in the interior, Omar Norman-Lott is a dog. Aaron Beasley at linebacker is a dog. But Tim Banks likes to send a lot of pressure. When you send a lot of pressure, it's feast or famine. You know this. If the blitz gets picked up, there is going to be favorable matchups down the field with Georgia's receivers. And with Beck and with Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey both playing for Georgia, it is going to be a problem. Beck's pretty much going to be able to take his pick of the litter if that blitz gets picked up. And we saw against Missouri, there were wide open receivers when the blitz got picked up. And that is cause for concern. So if we send pressure, we have got to get there. But in my opinion, why would you send 6 or 7 guys, Drew, when you have such good pass rushers anyways? Your D linemen are so good at pass rushing, just send 4 and then play in coverage. But that's not Tim Banks' style. He's aggressive. We run the most man coverage out of anyone else in the country, and we're going to live by that or die by that. And if we die by that, we're going to get blown to hell. Like, it's not going to be a close game. And that's the biggest concern for me. We have to be able to get some pressure on Carson Beck. Missouri did it a little bit, and Tennessee is going to have to be able to do the same thing if we want to have a chance.
Well, the line's currently set at 10 points, I think, for pretty much everywhere I looked. I've seen 10 and a half, I think, at the most. So I'm just going to go for 6 of this video. We're going with 10 points. Every time I try to pick a game for Georgia, they always, for whatever reason, love to do the opposite of what I pick them to do. I've been pretty good with my picks all year for every team other than Georgia. But for some reason, Georgia, I just don't know what I'm going to get from them. Everything I've seen on the eye test from what happened last week and, a couple weeks prior to that, Georgia and Tennessee are kind of on two different tracks right now. Georgia's right now is hot. They look like one of the hottest teams in college football. Like you said, they've gotten better every single week. They're getting players back. Defensively, they've really stepped up, I think. And they've played some really good offenses, some good opponents the past couple of weeks that I think has honestly really helped them get ready for this Tennessee game. And Kirby Smart's noted it in multiple interviews. Tennessee is a tough team to prep for, and he knows what he has to do to get this Georgia team ready for this Tennessee offense. Everything is telling me that Georgia is more than capable of covering this 10 points, but it's just the fact that it's in Neyland Stadium. Georgia's clinched the East. It was an emotional win, although it was a blowout win. I mean, that was an emotional win for Georgia. It was a big game. I think Georgia knows this is a big game too, but how tough is it going to be for this Georgia team to come off a very big game like they just played last week and go on the road? It's hard to go on the road and win in the SEC. It doesn't matter who you're playing. It's hard to go on the road and play in these conference games. And personally, I think that's why the spread is only 10 points. Some people might think it should be a little higher considering what Tennessee did last week versus what Georgia did last week. I think I am pretty comfortable with taking the 10 points, though. I think Georgia is capable of winning this game by 2 touchdowns. It wouldn't surprise me if Tennessee jumps out to a 7-0 lead. That Georgia always seems to like to give up these opening drive touchdowns. And it could be a situation where maybe both teams are tied at halftime. Georgia's really good in the second half, though. And I think they're going to need a good second half in this game to cover the spread. I think Georgia does it. I think Georgia has a good second half, wins this game by more than 10 points.
Yeah, Georgia's the better team for sure. I think that us losing, one of our best receivers, we're just injured pretty much everywhere, but Georgia's had to deal with the injury bug too. And, you said it, we're at 2 completely different places of the season right now, Tennessee and Georgia. With that being said, are you smiling because you think I'm about to pick Georgia?
No, I'm not smiling. I'm waiting this. Go ahead.
Okay. So, because hear me out. Heupel is a completely different coach at home versus away. I don't think Georgia's looking ahead to the SEC championship, but, you see they play to the level of their competition. If they think they're going to go roll over a team, we've seen them start slow. At home, at Neyland Stadium, I've been around many Tennessee fans. The vibe up in Knoxville is insane. People have been talking about this game since the UConn game, all right? So Georgia's going to win the game, as much as it pains me to say it, but I don't think it'll be by 10 points. Just the Tennessee fan in me is not letting me pick Georgia in that 10 points. Georgia will win, but if you can find 10.5, I would take Tennessee plus 10.5. At Neyland, Heupel's record at home is great. I think this is like our Super Bowl. Tennessee will cover.
Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Obviously, this is one of the biggest games on our channel, primarily because there's a bunch of Georgia and Tennessee fans on here, and we appreciate you guys for sticking around. We know you, majority of you guys always watch a lot of our videos, and let us know down below in the comment section what you think the keys are to this game, and what are some things that we might have missed on in terms of keys that you think you should let us know about. All that good stuff, let us know down below, and we'll see you guys in the next one.